All right, we're at our last yard we need to super for this season. I got all the new boxes and new frames coming out. Had to bring the big truck, Bobcat, pickup truck and trailer. Wasn't going to carry all that. That is the last of the new boxes with foundation that we have. We've got a couple hundred extra boxes we bought just to replace some of the rotten stuff. But that's it as far as the new frames go. We're going to finish supering and fixing all this yard. I think we're going to get rained out again, just like we did last week. So I imagine we're going to be coming back tomorrow to finish. There's 120 plus colonies here, 125, something like that. They all need to be queen checked, given cells. We got the new metal queen excluders. We're going to put all that on and everything. Everybody's going to get new supers. So a ton of work to do here, and I think we've got 2 or 3 hours before the storm hits us. So we'll chip away at it and hopefully finally be done putting on honey supers for the season. It's much later than I would like, honestly. You know, I don't recommend like throwing on deep boxes of foundation if you're trying to make honey this late in the season, but with the pollination money coming in late and then the pressure treating taking a full month and then having to assemble everything, and it's been setback after setback after setback. But hopefully we'll get something. This is a really good honey yard, so I haven't really lost hope that we won't get something out of here, but definitely not as much as I would like. But that's just the way it is sometimes. You just have to roll with it. That's a high quality box there. Very nice. This is the kind of stuff I'm trying to get rid of with these new ones. Thank goodness. I hope they really last 20 years like they claim, because if they do, that'll be great. Because these old painted ones, man, they don't, you get 3 years out of these things down here. It's so wet. Man, I sure love a nice clean new excluder. I wish I would take the time to clean the old ones, but I never seem to be able to make time for it. Well, it's nice while it lasted. It'll be clogged up here pretty soon, but it looks good going on. There's a lot of hives out here that are just like this, just dying for a super. No room. Probably completely honey bound. Most of them have been honey bound, so super's gonna help. Hopefully a population like this one, I would hope that could get up there and draw that deep box foundation, one that's as strong. As long as the nectar flow is still going on, we have a good chance. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up or not, but I've got a sick hive here. I don't think it's mites. Probably, I mean, I would guess a bacterial issue if I'm not seeing any mite damage. I can't be sure. There's a lot of the larvae. You see how spotty the pattern is? First I thought it was queenless, but it's full of eggs and larvae. The queen's doing a great job. But the larvae are starting to turn yellow and rot. There's kind of one there. I think you can kind of catch and see how it's yellow. And there's another one over here. See how it's rotting in there like that? That's probably bacterial damage. Thankfully, we happened to bring out some terramycin, an antibiotic, with us. So I'll be treating this hive. It's not, even if I didn't medicate it, it's not strong enough for a honey super. It's very weak. And haven't found the queen yet. I don't see any signs of mite damage. See how spotty that is? And again, normally I'd be like, oh, that's just a bad queen, but you can kind of see as the sun's catching those empty spots, all that white pearly larva, the queen's laying like crazy. It's just the larvae are dying before they can hatch out. And look at the population, it's very low. I actually thought it was dead when I opened it. So I'm gonna try to find the queen, take a look at her, see if she needs to, maybe I need to pinch her too, and I probably will, just to be safe. That'll create a break in the brood cycle. But I'll need to bring some healthy brood, probably at least cat brood. That way we know we can get a hatch out from it. Dump it in here. I'll bring the bees in there too. Give them a little boost. I'll flag it and just write, you know, I'll write sick on the flag, today's date. And I'll put the terramycin on there and try and salvage it. Here's the queen from that sick hive. She looks fine. I mean, she looks like a young, healthy queen to me. Even though she's all way off on the outside edge of the hive where there's just empty frames. I don't know what she's doing over there. I kind of hate to pinch her, but it's probably the best for the hive. Just because it'll create a brood cycle and the antibiotics will be more effective. I think it's just a better call to go ahead and cull her out. I mean, we've got queen cells here with us, so why not? Anytime I open up a hive that's sick or I think is sick, I'll just sterilize my hive tool I just put it in the smoker and pump it, leave it in there. I'll go do, I'll go pick up some trash in the yard or whatever I got to do. Some little task, leave it in there until it gets really good and hot. And if I've used the other end, I'll sterilize both sides. I used to do this between every single V yard when I first started, which is probably a smart thing to do, but I've gotten too lazy. I guess now I just do it if I think I've, touched a sick hive with it. Well, it's definitely beetle season. They're out with a vengeance. Totally decimated this hive. There's no saving it. There's been a few that have been a little rough I could save, but that one's just nothing but beetle slime, beetle larva. You know what I hate it? Well, these were probably decent singles, and we moved a big swarm that were in a bunch of medium supers, and they were under a tree. And I don't know about the area wherever you're watching from, but in Florida, if you have hives in the shade, you're going to have beetle infestations. This is why we keep our hives in full sun. It's just that particular hive was just a pile of empty equipment a swarm moved into, and we broke them apart and supered these singles when we were out here splitting this big yard the other night last week, because they were full of brood, full of honey, but they were probably also full of beetles. And again, I've been able to save the other hives, but this one's just completely lost. Well, somebody made some honey. That pack full. So the hive and halves look really good. I mean, look at those populations, but they're actually kind of deceptive. Every one of them have been slammed queenless, not any brood. That first pallet got decimated by beetles, and all of these are just completely queenless. I think they probably just swarmed themselves to death. This yard's been neglected. They didn't get honey supers on. See a lot of mite damage. Not really mite damage, but I see mites all over the drone pupa. And yeah, we're trying to fix it now, but it's hard to find enough brood to give everybody even a frame of brood to get them going again. And honestly, if they have that kind of population, I have a sneaking suspicion there's a virgin running around. They probably did swarm, and she's probably in there and hasn't started laying. They look way too good to be like truly queenless, like they're gonna die. They're not really acting like they're queenless. They don't seem very upset. But we're still going to give them some brood and still give them a cell just in case. They're obviously way too good to risk losing. Well, we got it done. I'm not going to lie, this was pretty rough. Almost every hive you're seeing was queenless, more or less. I mean, a lot of them had cap brood, so again, I'm assuming either A, swarmed, or B, when we clipped off those top boxes last week for the splits, they were, maybe we took the queen. If they did swarm, I'm not too worried about it, because it's crazy to think these were the worst hives in the entire apiary back in February. None of them can go to California. The average frame count was like 3 frame populations. Now look at these monsters. They're just enormous. We had to rebuild a few. I think we only lost 2 hives. The only reason we couldn't rebuild them is because the beetles just decimated all the comb. But I mean, look at the hive and halves are insane. They're extremely strong. So they've really rebounded. I mean, we could have pulled nukes out of every one of these hive and halves, no problem. And all these hives have no foundation other than the supers we just put on. So they're solid comb, they're good. I mean, look at this, it's nuts. Hopefully they'll get up there in that deep box and draw it out. But yeah, every hive had a problem. We had a disease colony, we had mostly queenless hives, so it's very difficult to find brood. I think we did manage to give every hive at least a frame of brood. I try to give them at least open brood in case the cell fails, they can make their own queen, but sometimes it just had to be cap brood, just depends on what we could find. Yeah, that's what happens. I mean, I haven't really worked this yard in months. I don't even know when it was. It was March or something. I was shaking minis from this yard. Now it's probably February. I don't know. It's before the bees. One of the bees are in California. That's the last time I was out here doing anything with these bees. So I had expected most of them to die. So even though it took a lot of work, it was rough. We pulled another 100 splits out of this yard. These hives look like they're going to be pretty darn good. And they're definitely making honey. They're full of nectar. So, it was a good turnaround. And if they've swarmed or requeened themselves, sweet. And that was really the only problem with this yard. So we'll come back and queen check them when we have time. And thankfully it didn't rain. It did sprinkle a little bit, but we were able to work past it. But we're pretty wore out. Definitely going to call it a day. 120 plus colonies, rebuilding, fixing. It's a ton of work, but hey, And this is it. We're done honey supering for spring. This is the last yard we're going to super. I'm pretty pumped. From here on out, we're just going to super the colonies that maybe need a second super or whatever. And it's going to be very few, and I'll be honest, I'm not super motivated to do it. I'm kind of need a little bit of a break, but I hope this was our last really, really tough day, and things will get a little bit easier for the rest of the month. Here's the old supers we've got left. There's a few more back at the house, but that's kind of the last of them. You can see they're in pretty rough shape. But once we finish off these, that's it for the old stuff for the first time in, I don't know, years. So we'll have culled out all the bad equipment, gone through everything, and I hope to get a proper inventory count and see what we're gonna have. We're burning a lot of stuff, but good riddance, because I'm tired of looking at this junk. What we're doing on top of just finishing supering, or really our last major honey yard, is we're coming back and checking these splits that we made. It's been 5 weeks since we've been here, so I don't know what it's gonna be. They were made with cells. We've been seeing about, give or take, 70 to 80% mating success on average. We've had 2 yards be as low as 50%. And I think we had 1 yard that was like 90%. So, but generally 70, 80% is kind of what we expect. So yard like this with about 100 colonies, you know, if we get 80%, I'd expect 20 hives to be queenless. 70%, we'd expect, 30 hives to be queenless. The bees are out there gathering pollen off that corn, which I'll be honest with you, I did not know bees could get pollen off corn. We Googled it, and then I went out there and looked, and sure enough, they were. So I'm hoping they brooded up real nice. That's a pretty big cornfield out there, and the bees are all over those tassels at the top of the corn. So that's really awesome. But that's really all we're doing now, is just going around to all these existing bee yards that we made, queen checking them. We're rebuilding them, giving them 2 or 3 frames of brood with bees, another cell, and if necessary, we're going to throw on those old honey supers, scrape them and throw them on as necessary if there are any full boxes. I don't expect most of these to be full, but there's been a few hives here and there that need a second super. What I'm most interested in is just keeping our colony numbers up, and before we have to come out here and start remaking summer splits, because summer splits will need to do with mated queens. Right now, mating's still pretty high, so we can rebuild these with queen cells. It's much cheaper, much easier for us. We can sell off the mated queens instead of keeping them, which is a nice revenue stream for us, but we won't be able to do that for too much longer. So hopefully this yard's good. So far, mating's been pretty good, although they have not made any honey here at all so far, but we're still early in. Did come across, this is usually what we're finding when we come back like a month later. You'll have some that are definitely drone layers. The larva's all just rotten. It's terrible. They're trying to make another queen, which they can't do because there's no fertilized larva. So this hive's more or less dead. You can usually tell too when you come and it's been a while. You see there's a bunch of debris there at the entrance. So all I'm really doing, they're full of honey, they're full of pollen. So all this colony really needs, in my opinion, is 3 frames of brood. I just want to make sure the brood has got a good combination of eggs, larvae, and cat brood. This colony next door is pretty strong, you can see. So I don't know if I'll pull 3 frames from this one. I'll have to dig in a little deeper. Sometimes I'll pull 1 frame, sometimes 2, sometimes I'll just pull all 3, depending on what that colony can spare and just how busy I am. Sometimes it's just faster to pull them out. Now when I pull the bees and the brood from there, that's going to weaken this colony to the point I'm putting any chance of making honey at risk. But that's okay for me, because I would rather have more spring colonies, because my spring colonies usually go to California. So I'm okay with hurting a honey crop, which doesn't even appear to be happening here right now, in order to save the colony. It's more important. But what we used to do in the past, we would build a bunch of hives in spring, and I would just try to make honey, and like this one would have been long dead. I would have lost the comb, but I would have got more honey with this one, because that's what we were going for. This year we're actually placing an emphasis on keeping our hive numbers stable, because when I do it that way, we end up with like a 50% colony loss every year. I'm trying to drop that this year. I'm hoping to keep it really low, but we'll see. But that's the trade-off. You can have the hive or you can have the honey. This year we're choosing hives, and this is the first year we've ever tried to do that. So we'll see how it plays out in the end. This one swarmed. There's the virgin running around. Still a lot of brood. I'm going to flag this colony as a queen. I'm not going to add a cell because this queen will destroy it, but I'm still going to flag it as queenless. And that way when we come back, I'll know at least at minimum, I'm going to check the flagged colonies. And we're going to assume the unflagged colonies are in good shape. I've been marking the queens with this year's color, which is blue, as I come across them. I don't go out of my way to do it, but if I find them, may as well mark them. It'll be easier for next time. And it's nice to track how long they live for. There's a lot of tallow in this yard. It's just all around it. But the blooms are looking pretty shriveled. They're not looking so hot. These are some younger blooms that look like, I don't know, is that over? It's hard for me to tell. There's some that look like they haven't opened up higher, but a lot of it looks just dried up. I hope it's not over because we haven't gotten any honey here yet at all. Here's some more. It sure looks like it's exhausted itself. That sucks because I think this is usually one of it's what we mostly make here in honey, but it looks pretty burnt up to me. That's not good. Here are the blooms. There's still some young ones for sure, but I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to do anything. There's a lot of young tallow trees. I mean, they're not going to put any nectar out, but you can see they're kind of growing. The landowners cleared the woods here not all that long ago. You can see all the little tallows popping up there and there and there and there. They're coming up nice. So it will be a good honey yard when all this gets growing. Completely empty. That's how they've all been so far. They have not touched anything. Now this hive's got a little honey on the excluder, but nothing, no frames drawn. A little bit of wax production in the brood boxes. Some of them do have frames of foundation down there, but I mean, really nothing I would consider to be any kind of honey flow. Well, yeah, a little honey production downstairs underneath that excluder. They're bulging the foundation out, which kind of sucks because they won't draw these two properly. You can see they're swelling out the wax there. That's going to impede the wax production here. So that's always an issue when you're doing foundation. All right, 21 hives in, and I found my first little frame of honey. Just one. Big fat frame. Definitely not going to be retiring anytime soon, but I appreciate the effort, girls. And the very next hive is also doing a little bit of honey. Okay, not much, but they're on something. And you know what else is, I've gone through this whole row and I've left several of them open just to pull brood or, you know, change a frame box, whatever. There's no robbing whatsoever. The bees are in a pretty good mood. They're not really trying to attack me or anything, so there must be something out there for them. I don't know if it's just starting or ending or what's going on, but there's something, and they definitely wouldn't be drawing out deep foundation if there was zero nectar. That makes me feel a little better. I was getting a little stressed out about it. I cut some drone brood open and found a couple mites running around. I'm starting to see them pop up slowly more and more. They're not really doing any damage to the brood yet, but they will pretty quick. That's normal for this time of year. As soon as we get this honey pulled off, probably at the end of the month, we'll come back and just medicate them pretty hard, beat these mites down. Just have to hope we can get the honey off and have time to come back medicate before they build up too much. Somebody made honey finally. That's pretty. Too bad that's in the brood box and not in the honey super. But I appreciate the effort, girls. A for effort. I normally take the really old frames that I want to throw away and I move them to the very outside edge of the box. That way it's just going to be a honey frame. And I usually pull those out during spring and throw them away and you know, because they've got plenty of honey. It's not a problem. Even if I replace it with foundation, they might draw it. But this little mamacita decided she wanted to completely lay up the worst frame in the stinking hive. It's this old plastic foundation stuff. It's terrible. And I can't throw it away, so I'll stick it back on the outside edge, and maybe next time it'll be honey and I can pull it. But I'm trying to cull out this bad stuff, but she just insisted. She wanted to keep it a little bit longer. We had one hive out of 96 colonies that drew the entire box out. It's a medium. Only one that's going to get a super today. No point in bringing that whole trailer full of stuff, but better safe than sorry, I guess. All right, done with this yard. We only had 14 queenless. A couple of them were virgins. Actually, and one of them a couple of them are a little iffy. We flagged them anyways. We gave them 2 to 3 frames of brood, all stages, gave them cells. Everybody's got more than enough honey and pollen. So 14 queenless hives out of 96. That's about 85% success. Now some of these had queens because remember they were double deeps. We split in half. So that number is not a true accurate representation of our real mating, but that's fine. I mean, if we've got 85% of these colonies are good to go, we gave those 14 colonies, we gave them a second chance to live. So most of those probably would have failed, and some of them may still fail, but it's always good to give them another shot. Some of them, a couple of the hives were completely dead. We just rebuilt them 3 brood 2 honey. Overall, they're looking fairly healthy. They've got a lot of foundation in them. A lot of bad boxes here. I didn't bring enough good boxes to swap out. What I noticed are the hives that didn't have any foundation in the bottom box here, that were just solid, especially if they had an old queen from last year that was still down in there. They did start drawing foundation. They did start making honey. But in general, most of them are empty. And like I said earlier, we only had one hive that really justified getting a super. We super when about 80% of the frames are drawn. So we're running 10 frame box. That means 8 out of 10 frames drawn or full of honey or close, you know. I don't like coming back to yards to check on them earlier than 3 weeks, because by that point all the old brood is hatched out that we've added or from the previous queen. The cells had time to hatch, to mate, start laying. So, well, in 3 weeks, we're probably going to be extracting or close to it. So we probably will not come back to any of these yards that we're doing now or up until extraction to check them again until we come out here to pull honey, and we're not going to be checking hives. We're going to be snatching honey off. So this is kind of their last chance to get established, to be healthy. And then who knows when we'll really have time to come back and give them a good work through. But this yard overall should be okay. It's not as good as I would like. There definitely is still some honey on. It's just not a ton. I'd laid out some old honey frames and they were robbing it back. If there was a strong nectar flow, they generally wouldn't do that. It's a nice sunny day, so they should be out working and not trying to rob. But they were not really aggressive to each other at all. We had hives open all day long as we were rebuilding. So, you know, not as great as I would like. Honestly, not terrible. From what we can remember too, this yard is kind of a late bloomer. We generally remember making honey late in the season here, and so we're hoping that's what's going to happen here too. It's not too late. There still could be something out there. Maybe I'm misreading those tallow blooms. I'm really not sure about those. We'll just see. We're starting to get a little bit of rain here and there. That might help put out some nectar. I have no idea, but that's basically what we're doing every day now. Just checking everything to make sure it's queen right, fixing it, adding additional supers, and that's all we're going to be doing really for the rest of the month.